What's going on, everybody? So I wanted to do a brisket cook on the Traeger Pro Series 34 cooker that I have, and so I want to go ahead and do a prime brisket. This will be my first time ever smoking a prime brisket. I usually buy the cheaper packers just because I'm cheap. Anyways, usually I'm buying, whenever I would smoke a brisket, it was for like a big gathering, and I always went with the packers just because you got more meat for your money. But since this is just a small brisket, it's just for my family, I just went with a smaller brisket, and I said if I'm gonna go smaller, I might as well get the prime, right? So anyways, what we're gonna use today for rub is this Chupacabra Brisket Magic. It's good stuff. And also I'm gonna oil her down with some canola oil as a sticking agent. But what I gotta do first and foremost is we need to trim a little bit of some of the silver skin and fat off of this brisket, get it ready for being rubbed down. So let's go ahead and get in on this brisket. First thing I wanna do is cut out this big chunk here. I usually always dig in there and cut that piece out. It's just one big, huge chunk of fat. Nobody really likes to eat that stuff. You also see that I've already got my plastic wrap laid down, so basically all I do is oil, rub, wrap it up in the plastic that it's sitting on already. There we go. Also, if you start to see you're cutting into some red meat, you can back off the blade a bit and just make sure you're only cutting mostly just white fat, like this stuff. You see that? I don't want to go too much more than that. That's looking pretty good. I'm going to shave this bit of fat here off. And see, there's a little red. I don't want to go too much on that either. I can cut this little bit here out. Now some people may choose to leave this fat in because they argue that it keeps the brisket moist, the fat does, and it does, but I really think there's just an absurd amount of fat in there, so I like to get rid of it. Alright. I like that. That's pretty good. I cut out most of that big chunk of fat that was in the little pocket there. So now we can flip the brisket back over here. Usually on my briskets, there'll be a fairly thick fat cap going across this thing. In this case, the fat cap is about 1/4 inch already, and that's about what I like to have, is 1/4 inch on there. I do like to shave a little bit of this off on the side here. Okay, let's flip it over. I usually like to look for, like, you know, stuff like this, these little bits of fat on top, and trim those off. This cut's actually pretty good already. There's not a whole lot to trim off of it. And I'm pretty happy with this overall. So, let's flip it over. One thing I like to do, because I like the rub to kind of get down into meat on both sides, is I'll do little cross cuts in it. And I'm using a fairly sharp fillet knife for this. So, try not to cut too deep, just enough to cut down into that fat cap. You know how thick your fat cap is, so just kind of pay attention to how deep the blade goes. And just kind of scour the fat cap a little bit. Now when I smoke this, I like to smoke the fat cap up because I like the fat to kind of render down and drip through the meat. Gravity works, so the fat will want to go downward into the meat more. Now this is a little bit thick here, this little piece here, so I'm gonna go ahead and just cut that bad boy off. Now, kind of just scour throughout. That's a little thick there too, so. All right. Next step, let's go ahead and flip her over. I'm gonna open this rub up real quick. Go ahead and coat with a light bit of oil. This oil is not going to do anything other than just help the rub stick to the meat better. Some people don't even do this part, they just put the rub directly on the meat, but it has been proven that oil or mustard will actually help the rub stick better. So in this little pocket here, I like to put some in there. Okay, let's take the rub, brisket magic, and do our magic. Put it on thick. I always go thick on my rub, especially on the brisket. This is what's going to help form that bark that everybody always looks for. You just kind of pat it in. You want to pat it in, not rub it in. Just simply just pat it into the meat. I'll flip it over, get inside this little pocket. Looking good, looking good. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's flip it over. Do a little oil. All right, let's put the rub on. All right, that's all there is to it, man. Let's go ahead and wrap it up, just like so. What I like about just doing all the rubbing and everything on top of the plastic wrap is that any seasonings that fall off the meat actually just kind of stay inside the plastic wrap. Keeps your counters clean, and yeah. All right, and that's it, man. All rubbed down, wrapped up real nice. Basically what we're doing here, I know a lot of people don't ever really talk about why we rub down and let rest in the fridge for a few hours, is because this is actually called a dry brining process. Basically, over time, those seasonings are going to kind of work their way into the meat. It's going to add a lot more juiciness and flavor to your meat, especially since a lot of times it will tenderize it as well. Some of the ingredients like salt, especially the lemon powder, lemon oil, citric acid, a lot of those things will actually help tenderize the meat some too. So what we're going to do is put this in the fridge and we'll fire up the Traeger in the morning. This is an 8.18 pound brisket, so roughly it's probably going to take about 12 hours to smoke this brisket based on the 1.5 hours per pound theory. Alright guys, we're going to go ahead and fire up the Traeger. And we're going to wait for this thing to billow out some smoke, and then we will, once it is, we will close the lid and I will set it to my 225, and then I will put my brisket on once it's warmed up real nice in here. So we're going to let it get the smoke going, and then we'll put the brisket on soon after. Okay guys, we are about 3 hours into the cook. Look at that. Got some nice color already coming in. Go ahead and give it some apple juice spritz. Just like to make sure she's got a good old spritz on her. Alright. Coming along nice. The pellet hopper, 3 hours later, I had it to the top and it's come down a little bit. This is a pecan, oak, and cherry mix, and I topped it up with more pecan because I ran out of the pecan oak cherry blend, so now I got like a pecan blend on top, but this should be plenty for the cook. So we will keep an eye on this and come out and spritz it periodically. I'd say every couple hours, so I'll come out and give it a spritz. Alright guys, let's see how we're doing. Oh, looking great. Let's go ahead and give it a spritz again. This thing has already shrunk quite a bit. Oh yeah, coming along nicely. It has been about 6 hours now since this has been cooking. Let's see how our pellet hopper's doing. Oh yeah, we still got plenty of pellets. Awesome. The one thing about low and slow on the Traeger for sure, man, it's like it doesn't burn through pellets terribly. When you got it on the high heat, it does, because it's using a lot of pellets to get that thing up to 400 degrees. But anyways, so good. So far so good. So we will check on it here in a couple more hours. Alright guys, we're going to go ahead and put a probe in the meat here, start monitoring the meat temp. I usually don't put my probes in early, I don't know why. It's just something that I do. But just bringing it in, go to the side here. Still pretty tough, got a ways to go. Probe is in, and let me show you guys what I was talking about here. Over here, I'm able to run the probe in through the firewall, through a grommet. Go ahead and close this. And down here, I can actually select like the probe. So probe 1 is reading 147. So at 160 I will actually wrap the brisket, but right now we got a little ways to go. So yeah, we will come back on this here in a little bit when I am going to wrap it. Alright guys, so while we're waiting on this brisket to cook, because they do take quite a while if you do them right. I think there's actually a hot and fast method, but I'm not going to play with that anytime soon doing that method, but I am going to enjoy a pumpkin ale because it is the fall. Such a good beer, man. I did ship some out to some folks, a couple of folks, so you should be getting those beers soon. But anyways, yeah, look, this is where we're at. Let me show you. Let's open her up. Got her wrapped. Still got a good bit of smoke billowing on out of this thing, which is awesome. Still hovering around the 220, 225. I just opened it up, so it's gonna plummet for a moment. But and here's where we are on our pellet hopper. We've used about 2/3 of the hopper in pellets so far, and it's been, let's see, what time is it right now? It's about 2:15, just a little after 2:15, and I put this on at 5 a.m. so we're going on about 9 hours so far on that smoke, which is, I figured that I would have this done right around 5 o'clock, about 12-hour smoke. That's what my calculations came out to. But anyways, you don't rush these things, you just let it roll. And I wrapped it because the wrapping is actually called the Texas crutch method, and the Texas crutch method is just try to help you get past that 160-degree stall that happens a lot of the time, because that's about where a lot of the fat starts to break down slowly and gelatinize, or start the process of gelatinizing, and it makes that meat just cut like butter. But yeah, cheers guys. Look at our weather. We got cold weather coming here. It's supposed to hit us, that's a cloud front there, that's a front of a cold front coming in. All these clouds are starting to move in. You can see the rest of the sky is nice and blue, but that's due north behind my house here. We got some of the cold weather coming. I think it's going to be like 39 degrees tomorrow around 10 or 11 a.m. It's going to be cold here. So, and I'm winterizing the pool. I got to get the pool emptied out some, and so that's that. So for those of you that just wanted to see this video for the brisket cook, please disregard that. But for those of you that have been supporters for a while, you know how I roll. So cheers guys, and when we get to cutting this brisket here, we will get back to you. Alright guys, here's the Traeger smoked brisket. So I'm gonna go ahead and slice into this and see how it looks. So far so good. It's got a really good bend to it. That's what you need. So I'm actually gonna cut it about here so I can go down the points some. Get in on that for a second. Man, look at that point. Man, it's real juicy. Let's go ahead and cut some of the point. I'm cutting it wrong, actually. Got distracted. Got to cut the point this way. But yeah, guys, take a look at it. There's a little bit of a smoke ring going on. I was expecting more. Not sure why I didn't get one as pronounced. I've seen some on other Traegers get a more pronounced smoke ring. I think what I have to do, you actually see it started to form there. This is where some of the bark rubbed off. You could see that it was forming one. I think if I set it at the smoke setting more and just leave it at smoke setting for a while, it'll actually come out better. But let's go in for a taste on this. So I want to try it out. Cheers. That's really, 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 really good. That chupacabra rub is a win-win. It's a winner, man. Anyways, guys, that's really good. Smoke ring wise, I mean, you see, like I said, you can see a little bit of it. I'm gonna try for a bigger one next round. But can't complain though. It's still really, really tasty. So, till next time.